pledge. Heavenly Father, help us make sound decisions and give us all the wisdom to process the material in front of us today and as we go around our district meetings, and protect the residents of the county in the upcoming snowy days that we do live in Michigan, but travel safe. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We'll have our first call out to the public. Anyone interested in public comment at this time?
Yes. My name's Tim Shaw, Somerset Township. Kind of confused and concerned here of rumors on the street, so I've always been to go to the source, and I believe this is the source. One thing I am going to bring up that I've held back for quite some time, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. It was requested of this board back when we had that ARPA money to put at least $1 million aside of county money and ask the municipalities to do the same, and then put it on the ballot to get the balance. And that was declined by this board. And instead of $9 million, we had to spend $15 million to get the radio service brought up. And you still spent $12 million on the county courthouse building. I agree 100% with fixing that building up. And I know municipalities do that. But I personally don't believe there's $12 million worth of work that was done. For the two projects they had, we could have got it done for $21 million instead of $27 million. So the people in the county here had to pay that extra $6 million, basically because of this commission. And bringing it to the forefront now, this ambulance service. Word on the street is we've got an ambulance company that really can't cover their area. They're contracted to do so. And we've got other ambulance companies stepping in and filling in the gaps for them. And it sounds to me like we're going to punish one of them for having the wherewithal to say, I'm going to help cover, but I can't afford to cover the cost all the time. It's a mutual aid contract. Mutual to me means something different than you folks, I guess, because it's not mutually beneficial to anybody. You know, I ran ambulance service in Addison for almost 30 years, and for most of those years, it was the same thing. We're always covering for somebody else, and which isn't right. You know, I suggested 10 or 12 years ago, you go by a point system. You guys keep back a portion of that money anyhow, so every quarter you pay out whoever's covering the most calls outside of their area. And Reedy was offered help 3 years ago, refused it. They were offered help more recently and refused it also. There's other options that they have. They choose not to. For whatever reason, you know, we all have the same issues as far as coverage and manpower and all that. You know, they get more than $1 million to cover part of this county, a major part of this county. And they've failed to do that, and you people let it slide. But yet you want to punish the people that are in here covering for them, which makes no sense to me. So like I said, if I'm incorrect, let me know. And I'll be the first one to admit it, but from what I've seen, I'm not. So.
All right, thank you, Tim. Anyone else wish to address the board at this time?
I'm Steve Wismar, Jefferson Township Supervisor. Just wanted to alert the board of the details regarding ambulance service for my township, Jefferson Township, in case you don't know. Back in 2013, we asked Reading to stand out and brought in Hudson in a formal way. I have a letter that the board wrote to Reading Emergency Unit and to Hudson at the time, or to Reading Emergency Unit, saying, you be the backup, Hudson will be the primary. And it's been that way ever since. I've heard not one complaint, and I've polled Tommy Smith, Dick Deller behind me here is on the fire committee. It's been an excellent relationship, and we'd like to continue with that. Another thing you may not know is that when we split from Pittsford and became the Jefferson Fire Department, we were left with this building, and we did not know what to do with it. The building for the Pittsford Jefferson Fire Department was on our side of the Pittsford Road, not the very best building. Time went on, and again, Dick Deller there facilitated leasing that building to Hudson. And they spent a lot of money rehabbing it. There's a kitchen, there's bedrooms, place for the ambulance, living room, it's beautiful. So in effect, Jefferson Township has, for the most part, 24/7, 365 presence of at least one ambulance, which we really, especially we gray-haired ones, think that ought to continue. So that's all I have to say at the moment.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else wish to speak at this time?
Kill, this is rare.
Hi, I'm Leanne Zimmerman, Pittsburgh Township Supervisor. I just want to say, why wasn't the townships notified that this was going on? We had no clue until your guys' last meeting when it was put on YouTube that you guys were having an issue between Hudson and Reading. My opinion is, as a citizen of Waldron, or of Hudson, Pittsburgh Township, why would I want Reading Emergency Unit coming to my house? That's like 30 minutes away for them to show up to my house, when we have Hudson that can come within 5 minutes. I just recently had, my dad had to take or be transferred by ambulance, and he lives in Jefferson Township, I hate to say, but Jefferson Township, they were there. We thought he was having a stroke. If we had to wait for Reading, who knows what would have happened. Luckily, it wasn't a stroke, it was something else, but why would we, as our, how do I want to say, why would our citizens of Pittsburgh, and I will put in Jefferson, why would we want Reading to come to our place when we already have a wonderful relationship with Hudson? I mean, we haven't had any problems with them. Mutual aid for them, I agree with Jim Stevens on the letter that he wrote. I agree with that. If Reading wants help, then have them pay. My opinion is we pay Reading way too much money for not doing a thing. You hardly ever see a Reading Emergency Unit vehicle out there, except for, I've noticed in the last 3 weeks, all of a sudden, Reading Emergency Units are out there. Why? Why? They couldn't be out there earlier. You always seen all these other ambulance services out doing their work, and they're getting paid the most. I'm sorry, but I think, one, you guys should have told us, Pittsburgh and Jefferson Township, or all the other townships over in that area, you should have told us what was going on. And You should have waited to do this letter for the 90 days. Has that even been typed up? Has it even been handed out? Has anything done with that? Because we now, if you guys do this, we have to decide on who we're gonna have to cover us. Yes, we can have Addison, we can have Somerset. Somerset's wonderful, I'm gonna tell you. They helped out a lot, for my mom, I should say, not for something for personal. But why would we want Somerset to come clear down to Pittsford? Why would we want Addison to come clear to Pittsford when we have Hudson 5 miles away? That doesn't make sense to me. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board at this time?
Steve Shipman, Pittsburgh Township resident for 35 years. And I want to reiterate what we've already heard. This is nuts. I live from here to the apartment house away from 127 into Pittsburgh Township. Obviously, that's going to be a problem. So I would advise that you redo your initiative here. We can't. It's just not acceptable. I will assure you that this problem is not going away because there are many residents that are fired up. So please consider all that stuff.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else wish to address the board at this time? Seeing none, we'll continue to the consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair. I would move for approval of the consent agenda with removing 25034 and removing that from today's agenda and sending that to management personnel for review.
Okay.
And Commissioner, if I could, I would like to see 25032 down on the Management and Personnel Committee report for today. I have a question on something there.
Okay.
On that.
Yep. I think actually I may have put that under public safety because I thought that there might be questions.
You want it under management and personnel and
It
public
is.
safety?
Well, it's a contract for we can put a public safety, I guess.
Okay. Since you
Okay.
And with
Since you two
with
are
those
pulling
changes,
items.
Yeah.
I would support Commissioner Benson's
Thank
motion.
you, Commissioner.
Okay, so we're pulling 32 and moving it to public safety, and 34 gets pulled, and personnel management will look at it between now and next meeting, correct?
Correct.
All right. Anything else on consent agenda before we approve it as amended? Hearing nothing, excuse me, hearing nothing else, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, moving along, we've got 2 items of correspondence, any comments on those?
And just the medical examiner's report there, I noticed that they do have year-end numbers, so I'm hoping that in that discussion that we had last week regarding medical examiner, that we can maybe get some updated numbers, and I was a little shocked at the number of cases and autopsies in the county this month, or the month of January.
And I believe, Commissioner, that was noted along with the accompanying letter that we had not only in our area, but also there is collectively an uptick.
Well, but if you look at it year over year compared to Lenawee County was down and we were up.
Right. It was just that last quarter that we were up.
And I can reach out to Sarah again, but I did send her that comment that we wanted that updated with, 24 numbers. But I can reach out to her again. I do know Dr. Mano, I believe, is on vacation.
Yeah, he was out west.
Yeah, but I know he's back now, so I can reach out to Sarah to, remind her we don't want those updated.
To that, we might consider looking at our standing order schedule and getting them scheduled to do his annual.
I believe,
Is scheduled.
Yeah.
So
I want to say March. February, March.
I gotta look it up.
Give Abe a minute and we'll.
May, first meeting in May.
Okay. Is that soon enough for you?
Just because of the discussion we're having,
Yeah.
it might be, if we could get him sooner.
Okay. We'll reach out.
Okay.
I'll include that in my, because I think he's already confirmed on that.
Okay, you did confirm on that, yeah.
So, yeah, I'll see if we can't, I'll get with Abe and we'll see if we can't come up with I know we've got open slot or two in the meantime. We'll see if we can't get him quicker.
Just because of the ongoing discussion of that
Yep.
three-county agreement, that it might be better to get him sooner rather than later.
Okay. We'll see what we can do on that. Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the regular agenda.
With the addition of 25032 under public safety, I would move to approve.
Support.
Any other additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have no standing orders today, which is rare. So, Brad?
All right. You're out of the gate here. Since we added 25032, I will go ahead and start with that. The Honorable Board of Commissioners, we, the Board of Commissioners, hereby approve the appointment of Rachel Dockstader as a criminal and civil attorney magistrate for District Court, and I will move for adoption.
I'll support.
Thank you.
Just to introduce this, Ms. Dockstader will become the new attorney magistrate and district court administrator. So because magistrate appointments are statutorily a requirement of the Board of Commissioners, this is really a housekeeping issue because Laura Ray will be moving to the friend of the court's office. That's currently her position, and so because of her resignation from that position and her movement to the other, and Ms. Dockstader is replacing her in that, this appointment is basically a housekeeping.
There's, if I may, there's another important item, I think, to be noted, that in order for her to take that appointment, she has to be a resident of the county. So,
That's not, I guess, the concern that I had is there's no date that this is effective, because I believe Ms. Dockstader is continuing to serve as a contracted public defender through the end of February,
oh,
okay?
okay.
And so my question is should this appointment have a statement that this is effective March 1st, 2025?
I believe, Commissioner, that that would be, her contract may be, but if you are an attorney magistrate, you cannot do any other legal work outside of the scope of that. In other words, if she is acting in this position, she cannot do any other work. And so therefore, with that contract, I would, and perhaps I should not assume, but I would believe that Judge Bianchi would see that no work was assigned to her because of that relationship. even though that contract is still in existence.
I'm quite sure that she's still finishing some of the work that was assigned to her, because I don't believe she has come to the district court yet. Am I correct? On that, I was thinking that that was going to be...
Correct, she has not. However, I believe that as to aid in the transition, I don't know if Laura had planned some vacation in the transition time, but I believe that this was designed because this was brought forward to me by Laura Ray, and I believe that it was to aid in that transition, and so the thought was that she could start doing some of those duties, and particularly warrant requests, prior to her actually assuming that position.
So the one that was referred back, 34 that was referred back to committee, actually says on it that it's effective March 1st.
Right, because
So
that's replacing
attorney
Rachel's...
replaces
Correct.
Rachel.
But that is with probate court, that's not with the public defender's
Correct.
office.
But to your point though,
So Rachel's
This-
still doing some of that work until
that's what I'm wanting.
March
I
1st.
mean, you've created a question in my mind, you know,
Yeah.
as far as the dates. So, because I know Laura Ray, her last day officially in district court was the 8th. My presumption is she's out the front of the court today.
Right.
Okay. So, there's some dates here that.
And like I say, I believe that the idea is to fill that gap. And so, because it's a state court administrator, and it's that line that we want to be cautious with in regards to crossing the realm of the judiciary, but the state court administrator's office is pretty adamant. I've had conversations with both Laura and with Mr. Dixon in regards to outside legal work, which they are unable to perform. So it would be my belief that once this is in effect, she would not be able to perform any of that outside legal.
And again, that's why I say, does this need to have a clause that this is effective March 1st? Because even all the communication that we've received from Ms. Berger, the administrator of the public defender office, is that those other contracts replacing her there are effective March 1st.
And I guess I can't answer the timing question, Commissioner. So that would be something that we could ask Judge Stiverson.
So, I just looked up, Brad, that email that you sent out or forwarded, I think you forwarded it to, let's see, you forwarded it to Kevin and myself, because Kevin serves as
Vice Chair of Public Safety.
Correct. So this was on, well, Laura Ray sent it to you on February 4th. And it says, please find the proposed resolutions for Rachel and Melissa to serve as attorney magistrate and non-attorney magistrate. Respectfully, as you're probably aware, Rachel will be replacing me on March 14th. The purpose of Melissa's appointment is to enable her to assist with some work such as setting bond, performing marriages, blah, blah, blah. So I think right there, Rachel's not, according to this email, Rachel's not actually replacing her until May 14th.
March 14th.
March 14th,
Okay.
excuse me.
So with that in mind, then, that I would be,
Well, we still have, how about we, Commissioner, I would move to table this.
okay?
I think that's fine considering that email.
Right, or we could simply deal with the resolution and with an amendment to make it effective March 1st.
You
Your
have a
call,
motion-
sir.
You have a motion to table.
I didn't hear the word motion, but
Was there support for your motion?
that's a valid point. Is there support for the motion to table?
I'll support it.
I believe it's not debatable. I'd like a roll call on motion to table, please.
Commissioner Ingles,
No.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Benzing,
No.
Commissioner Leininger.
Yes.
Motion to table passes. We'll see it back next time.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just, Commissioner, if I might ask
Yeah.
Commissioner Weiner, is a housekeeping issue, you just simply want an effective
The
date?
effective date, because I don't want to, and there again, as you said, if she is appointed as the attorney magistrate, she can't do any of those other legal
Right.
services that she's been doing. So we need to make sure that whatever date that is effective, and maybe even somebody from the court's office could find that out for us today, and we can take it off the table and still act on it today. But we need to make sure that we don't hamper her from providing that other legal service
Right.
that she still needs to continue to provide per the contract that she has with the county and with the public defender's office.
Thank you, and that's really what I needed from you, was what the clarification of what form you're looking for to bring that back.
And so just make sure we don't
Yeah, yeah.
get the
So-
correct effective date.
Let me,
Doug, you have,
The question and comment is, how do we fill the gap that we're creating here between, one person leaving and the delay in the next person coming into the role? How is that gap filled?
well, I do know that Laura was planning on, still assisting in some fashion. And I know, let's see, 25033 that we passed in consent.
Deals with the non-attorney magistrate, and I'm not sure who had that position in the,
yeah, they've had some shuffling
Right.
in that
So-
office, so,
And in that regard, Commissioner, we've not passed a motion rescinding the resolution that appointed Laura Ray as the attorney magistrate.
I don't, and from a housekeeping, I don't recall that we have ever
Rescinded.
rescinded those. I believe that it just simply, when that person is no longer in that position, they no longer have that responsibility.
So you've got one person holding two spots right now, front of the court and court magistrate. Both functions are compatible.
That's my understanding.
Interesting.
The ways of the judiciary are,
The way I read the email, though, from Laura, is that Rachel is not going to be replacing her until the 14th of March.
Right.
So, I mean, basically, we're not taking anybody out of anywhere. If she's not going to replace her in that job until the 14th of March.
Only that the front of the court has been established as Laura Ray as of February 8th.
Yes,
right.
11.
Because Sheila's leaving a little bit later this month, like a week after
The
that.
18th.
Yeah.
Yeah, she ended at district court on Friday and started at front of the court.
Yesterday, presumably, unless she took a vacation, but I'm not
So
aware
that's
of
the gap
that.
I'm talking about,
Yeah.
You've got somebody going over to the front of the court, learning the job in front of the court, who's being the court administrator now. And if that job, is capable of being absent, how does that fit into our structure?
It's not the court administrator, it's the attorney magistrate.
Well,
It's
and there's,
attorney.
there's two different functions that person fulfills.
Same question.
Right,
So Melissa Bragg is appointed by 25,
but she's not an attorney magistrate. She's a
That's-
non-attorney magistrate.
Correct.
There is a difference.
according to the email, Melissa Bragg to serve as attorney magistrate and non-attorney magistrate.
Well, there was two different attachments to that email. One is for a non-attorney magistrate and one is for an attorney magistrate.
Well, Again, hopefully, if we can get some
Yeah,
communication or take a
I
break
sent
and
a
get
text
some
to Judge
communication.
Syverson, and so hopefully that'll be the quickest way to get an answer from her.
And-
So if we can take it back up today, then that would be wonderful.
Okay,
All right.
good discussion, but we just,
So-
like Doug says, we
Yeah.
don't want any gaps.
Right. No,
Well, and unfortunately, Commissioner Engels, we're gonna have a gap because Judge Stuyvesant has selected somebody to fill that position that Laura had, but that person's not starting until March 14th, according to that email. And so that's, you know, job responsibilities that somebody else in district court will have to take over and deal with until that position of court administrator over there is filled.
And I understand we're dealing with an elected in her department, and it's up to her to run her department. I understand.
and most likely what will happen is those things that Laura would normally hear, small claims, things like, I suspect that probably Judge Syverson will find time to. All right, we ready to move on?
Yes, please.
Okay. We will open up with a discussion on ESTA, which is the Earned Sick Time Act. So last week I participated in a Zoom meeting with our labor council. Unfortunately, Commissioner Wiley was unable to join me. Hopefully that piece of equipment got unstuck.
Yes.
That is a good thing in regards to the implementation of the Earned Sick Time Act. I passed out copies of the template that our labor council, Guri, forwarded to Mark and I, and they are suggesting that policies of all their clients in regards to paid time off. We no longer have sick time. A year ago, Commissioner Collins, just for your benefit, we changed to, rather than have paid time off and sick time, we just now have, we look at it all the same way. So we currently, under our current policy, we give enough time to comply with the statute. However, there are some places with seasonal employees or part-time employees where now under the new statute, we have to have it applied anyway. When you work 30 hours, you get an hour of PTO, regardless of your employment status. A full-time employee, a part-time employee, a seasonal employee. If you work, you get paid time off. The other thing is we need to have a record-keeping component for that. And interestingly, Guri talked about for herself as a salaried employee of a law firm, they believe, at least at this point, that for salaried employees as well, we need to have a record-keeping component for them. And so consequently, even though that they are salaried, they don't punch a clock, we don't keep track of the hours that salaried employees work or exempt employees work, we are going to have some form, even though we don't have them punch a clock, we don't keep track of their hours, we're going to have to make a projection that they work 40 hours, they're going to have accrued an equivalent amount of paid time off. So the record-keeping component of it, even it's one of the things that I know that my accountant has talked to us about our business as far as keeping track of for everybody that gets paid from my business. So we need to address this because the act is going to go into effect later this month, and so we need to get this addressed by our next meeting. She acknowledged that yes, the legislature, the House has passed a bill, sent it over to the Senate. However, there is no guarantee of what that will look like or if the governor will sign it. And if the governor doesn't sign it, there probably is not enough votes, even with crossover, to override the governor's veto of that bill. So it is their strong suggestion, their legal opinion, that we need to live with the act as it is written right now, have that in place, and then if we need to adopt our policy, then we can fix it later. So a couple of other things from it. We have caps right now on the amount that employees we're going to need to remove those caps. The one thing is there is a usage limit allowed in the existing statute of up to 72 hours a year. And so, because obviously we have employees that have more vacation time than that, we will probably want to have whatever cap that we place. We can be more giving, more liberal than what the statute, but the statute says that it can be capped at 72 hours a year. Obviously, if we want to have that at 120 hours, because we allow employees to have 3 weeks of paid time off, 3 weeks of vacation time a year, that obviously we want to have our policy in conjunction with. The other thing is any collective bargaining agreements that we currently have, they override this act. However, the 4 collective bargaining agreements that we have, they all expire this year. And so when those are renegotiated and rewritten, that we will have them written so that they are in compliance with the act. But right now, whatever those CBAs say, that we will stick with it. The other issue in this is compliance is going to be a big factor. So employees, they can not report to work for up to 3 days and suffer no consequences for it. If they have the PTO time in their bank, they get paid. There's also an unpaid PTO component to this act. And so it is legal counsel's suggestion that we set up a mandatory training for all department heads, both elected and appointed, so that we can show compliance, that they have been trained, that they know that there can be no form of retribution for employees saying that at 2 o'clock in the afternoon I'm going home if they ever earn sick time, because they don't need any reason to take off. And so if they say they're sick, they can leave. And we can't do anything about that. And that is one of the big things that's been talked about within the business community, in particularly Mr. Shaw in the EMS community, of what that's going to do to staffing. Because you can just have a no-call, no-show, for an ambulance or an ER that you're trying to stand up for 24/7, and you're going to have employees just not show up for work. So that is going to be a huge challenge.
Quick question, is that just for sickness or any reason, or we can't ask?
Pretty much we can't ask.
And the cap on that is what we determine, or 72 hours? Or we can't go less than 72 hours?
We can't go less than 72.
We can go more than
Right.
72.
Right.
Is that, if someone has 3 weeks vacation and they have 72 hours of ESTA, do they use the 72 hours first, or the 3 weeks first, or it's totally, they would probably, as an employee, save their 72 and use the vacation time?
Well, we don't have vacation. We don't have vacation time. That's the thing. We have a bank, okay, but we don't make a delineation if it's sick or vacation.
Yeah, right, and we don't have to make that delineation. So if we still had a separate category for sick time and separate category for vacation time, then we would have to make sure that that sick time did comply with that separate requirement. But when we offer just straight paid time off, we don't have to differentiate there whether it's sick time or vacation time.
When we keep track of the hours, how do we know to keep the 72 or use part of the 72?
And Commissioner, we don't have to limit it to 72. Our current paid time off
Well,
schedule.
whatever the number is,
Yeah.
how do you keep track?
Well, we're going to track the number of hours they have available.
We
And that
currently,
will be all inclusive, the 3
Yeah.
weeks plus the 72.
Well, it won't be 3 weeks plus the 72. They will just have a pot for every 30 hours they work. We have to, at a minimum, we actually are more generous than that under our
Right.
current policy.
our policy is more generous than in that regard, than what the state statute
Right.
requires. So we don't have to keep track of 72 sick hours. And we don't, if we went back to limit to say, well, you can only use 72 paid time off hours in a calendar year, that's a taking from the employees underneath our personnel handbook, and we're gonna have some very unhappy employees.
How does the 72 fit in with the 3 weeks that everybody gets,
Well, not everybody gets 3 weeks.
that somebody gets?
Yeah. So it basically,
I'm not
because-
connecting the
yeah,
dots,
okay.
obviously.
So we're more generous than that. That is the minimum. That is the floor the statute says. We are more generous than that. And so therefore, it's just like, we actually can require a physician's note on day 4 of them being absent for work, calling off sick, okay? We don't require a physician's note. We could do that. We could change our policy and do that. But we have to give them a minimum of 3. We can't say you have to have a doctor's note to call off sick. But we can say you have to have one if you're gone for more than 3 days unexpectedly. Which would differ from if you schedule a vacation for July and you want to take, if you have 3 weeks of time available and you want to take 3 weeks, if your department head allows you to take the 3 weeks, but that's a decision of the individual department.
And Commissioner, back to your comment regarding the attorney and the salary employees. I don't understand their reasoning on that, because the statute clearly says, for purposes of earned sick time accrual under this act, an employee who is exempt under the overtime requirements under Section 13A1 of the Fair Labor Standards Act, 29 USC 213A1, is assumed to work 40 hours in each work week unless the employee's normal work week is less than 40 hours, in which case earned sick time accrues based upon the normal work week. So, to me, it's quite clear. Anybody who's a salary employee works 40 hours a week. And our guidelines, our PTO that we offer provides more than the 1 hour for 30 hours worked already. So we're in compliance in regards to that.
Correct. But evidently, they want us to track it. And I have actually received the same advice in regards to my business from my CPA, that I am supposed to track for my one salaried employee.
They're being conservative.
Again,
No, this is unexplored ground, and worst case, it's voter-initiated legislation. And voter-initiated legislation does not have the vetting process of going through the LSB, the Legislative Services Bureau, and crossing all those T's and dotting all those I's. And so there is going to be a lot of figuring this out as we go.
well, so really the keys that I see in our current employee handbook are on page 22, underneath paid time off, letter A, which states that the maximum PTO accrual is 520 hours. That's unallowable. That has to be struck from the employee handbook. Okay? Another item is in regards to the accrual of paid time off on page 24, underneath letter E, for part-time employees. Employees working, and currently reads, employees working 20 to 30 hours a week on a regular basis will accrue PTO. Employees working less than 20 hours per week on a temporary, seasonal, or internship basis are not eligible for PTO. And that language has to be struck. Any part-time employee, doesn't matter how many hours they work, it's an accrual of 1 hour of paid time off at a minimum for every 30 hours worked. The other item that we have is on page 20. And this is actually underneath new hires, transfers, and promotions. Our current employee policy requires that if an employee transfers departments and that compensation for that new department is from a different funding source, that they were to be paid out for their unused PTO from the current funding source, and we cannot require that anymore. That has to be taken out of our employee handbook.
So if you would provide those struck lines, 'cause I was doing my best to keep up with you, but,
So again, so it's on page 20,
okay,
the top of page 20,
hold your horses, please. Page 20,
page 20.
go ahead.
In that first paragraph about the, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth line down. You have a new sentence.
Now you're talking, okay, you're on the physical page, okay.
Right.
Just
Well, that says page 20, it says page 20 in the upper right hand corner.
Right.
Or the page, yeah.
Page 20,
Yeah.
not the scroll.
Right above,
yeah.
above there where it says layoff, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It says, if the department the employee is transferring to is funded by a different funding source, all accrued leave time shall be paid out to the transferring employee and allocated to the employee's original department.
Okay, you're talking basically that second to the last sentence in that paragraph needs to be stricken.
And even you could probably strike the last sentence, because in essence, we're coming back there and saying that their PTO, you know, again, they're still gonna have their PTO, we don't need to,
Based on hours.
it's
Right.
based on hours worked and, right.
Okay, strike the last two sentences of that first paragraph. Correct?
Yep.
Okay,
Then if you go to the page 22. Underneath paid time off, towards the bottom, letter A.
page 22. Letter A, the whole thing needs to be stricken, I believe, correct?
No,
Just the maximums, I believe.
the maximum PTO accrual is 520 hours.
Right?
If an employee meets this maximum amount of 520 hours, the employee will no longer accrue PTO until they fall below this amount.
So, okay, I got you,
So the state is 72 hours. Do we want to be a different number than 72?
No, okay, no, the state says the minimum, okay, you
Right.
have to allow them to use 70, depend, on our side, you have to allow your employees to use 72 hours of sick time in a year,
At a minimum.
at a minimum. Okay?
Do we want to create a maximum?
We can't
We
create.
can't create
We
a,
cannot create a maximum.
well, in essence, that is the max.
Right.
The state, at a minimum, they're, yes, so, it's,
Voter initiated legislation.
the other thing is then if you go to the next page, and again, this is a question whether we keep this schedule for all part-time employees, those working less than 30 hours per week.
you're on page 23,
I'm on page 24.
24,
The
excuse
table.
me, okay.
The table, the second table, which is current,
Under letter E,
under letter E, part-time.
yep,
Or do we use that table for those that work 20 to 30 hours per week? And again, this is, think about the more tables we have, the more schedules we use, the more cumbersome it is for whatever payroll system we're using to keep track and to accrue those proper hours as deemed. You know, where here it says employees working less than 20 hours per week on a temporary, seasonal, or internship basis are not eligible for PTO. That's got to go.
okay.
Okay, and then again, it's a question of do we insert a new letter F there to say employees working less than 20 hours a week will accrue PTO at 1 hour for every 30 hours worked.
Well, every employee gets 1 hour for 30 hours.
Well, that's the minimum.
That's the minimum, Commissioner. We currently, on those employees that, and
So there's,
And I question whether this is, so somebody works 30 hours, 29. I'm wondering if that schedule there is sufficient, Commissioner. Just as I look at that first year one.
It's 3 hours of pay period to get to 74.
Okay. So it would be, the 68 hours per year would be sufficient for somebody working, say 29 hours a week. They would still accruing 68 hours in that first year, they're still accruing more than is required under the statute. And again, the next thing is, do we say that this is the table we're gonna use for all part-time employees, whether they're, from working 5 hours a week to working 30 hours a week, or do we create it and just say any employees working less than less than 20 hours per week shall accrue 1 hour of sick time for every 30 hours of time worked.
Does that create a record-keeping problem? And that's
Hopefully with the new ADP system, when that's instituted, that's easier. But yes, that's where, could easily say, part-time employees will accrue hours based on the schedule below
if we are able to track the number of hours, would it not be easier to simply set up based on the number of hours worked across the board, full-time and part-time? And we just have the steps based on years of service?
And back to that, we can't, to me, I don't think we can use this schedule for somebody working 10 hours a week. Because in that schedule, if they work 10 hours a week, we're going to give them 68 hours of earned sick time.
The thing you want to look at is, to me, in my mind, is you got somebody working 10 hours a week and somebody working 40 hours a week, and they're getting paid the same leave time, both of them. And to me, that's not fair. So you'd have to set it up a little bit less for the part-time.
Well, the question then becomes the record-keeping component. We're trying to make it simpler from a record-keeping perspective.
And in my mind, the simplest way to do that is to go back to the sick leave and give people 4 hours of sick leave a pay period that work full-time. And then 2 hours for however, in that 40 hours, take that four hours, and if they only work 10 hours a week, they only get 1 hour sick leave a week. And then you'd have to go back and figure out how much vacation time you're willing to give people on years. That would be the easiest by the books to do it, because you'd have 4 hours of sick. I worked for the state for 25 years, and the most I ever got for sick leave was 4 hours, and that was starting my first year to my last year was 4 hours. They never raised the sick leave. You got more vacation time as you progress through the system, but you did not get any more sick time.
And again, our employees like the fact, of that combined, that flexibility. I think we just insert a new letter F there underneath that and just say employees working less than 20 hours per week will accrue 1 hour of paid sick time for each hour worked.
Now, there's already an F. If you,
And we would have to.
Right, well, we'll have to
That would,
Right.
the F would go to G.
Word makes it really easy,
Yeah.
creating a table.
that's understandable, but do you want to create a new point or just insert it in that same paragraph that's talking about employees working 20 to 30 hours?
Okay, we could just do that as a B then underneath E.
Yeah, you could even
Just do that
put
as a B.
small letter B, and then you keep it in the part-time. You had a comment.
I
Doug?
do, with ADP, do we know the components of how the accrual is going to actually be applied? Do we know that answer yet, or is that something we don't know yet?
They're getting, so our schedules and stuff as far as our current accrual schedule for current employees as hours off for time is uploaded, and so ADP will keep track of that based on their hire date, and so that'll be systematic and it'll.
You just have to let them know what we're doing. how-
Right, so
we
the
just
other,
have to let them know what schedule we're using for what employees.
right, so the other part of my question is, it seems like we're hammering all the details out in a meeting that, sometimes you miss things when you do things the way it's going right now.
Right.
Is this better done in management personnel and create the, proper time to make sure we don't miss?
Right, and that's really what I was going to conclude with, is that I would like this body to charge management personnel and Derek to put together in the next 2 weeks a policy that will be in compliance with what the act is right now. Because again, we have no idea what's going to happen in Lansing. That way we can come back on the 25th, we can pass a policy that is in compliance with the current law as we sit today. And then,
And
If we-
that policy will be effective as of February 1st, or February 21st.
21st, yes. Yeah, so it will be actually a retroactive policy, effective February 21st.
I think it's better to, send it, to what the committee and let Derek and and
Right.
put something together that has some time to process, how you.
If that's the general consensus, I'm okay with that, and there again, if any commissioner has an item that he spots,
Let us know.
please email it.
Don't hold back.
And again, and while we're just here and you've got that employee handbook up, we talked about this last meeting regarding the workers' compensation. There's language in here on page 11 and 12 that does need to be updated to reflect that.
Okay.
I would, like we have done with our wage schedule, that new hire checklist, many of those other things, my recommendation is that where we reference that process for reporting a work comp claim, that we take that guideline that Mr. Ringman prepared for us to review last meeting, we label that as appendix, I believe F, G, as appendix G, and we just reference, in the work comp, as far as reporting, you need to report to your immediate supervisor, and your supervisor needs to comply with the work comp policy or guidelines attached as appendix G.
Could I ask for you to prepare that in a resolution form, and then we would have that under consent? If everyone's good with that, we'll just have that under consent at our meeting on the 25th.
Yeah.
And I am fine with that, since you have been the point person on that transition, along with the treasurer. Thank you very much, Madam Treasurer, for your work with that, with transitioning from, I feel a lot better when we're not self-insured anymore. So if you could prepare that, Commissioner, that would be fantastic, and we can get that added then to our handbook for the at our next meeting. And I did hear back from the judge.
And?
So are we concluded with this discussion?
Well, just so everybody's in agreement, this is going back to personnel and management for us to bring it back updated for our next meeting on
Next
the
meeting.
25th.
Yes.
Okay, as long as I've got
Yeah,
consensus,
as long as
we're
we have
good.
consensus on that, we'll work with Derek,
Yep,
and we'll make sure we bounce it off the Labor Council so that there's nothing there. And then, again, the other point that I think is really, really important is that we come back with something that we are creating a policy that all of our elected and appointed department heads must participate. And Drury said she would provide that training, but I believe that we should report it when we do it. And for a compliance factor, that we, every person that either participates in the live version, and if they did not participate, that there will be something that they will have to document, sign, that says that they have viewed and agree that they will comply with the information provided in that. Because employees, the dispute resolution process on this is they can sue us. Rather than filing with the labor board because they're not getting paid minimum wage or they're not getting paid overtime, they can sue us. And whether there's merit to that or not, defending lawsuits is expensive. So I would strongly suggest that we take that and make that an official policy.
well, and I responded to, the string of emails, and I think you saw that I was in full agreement that we do that as far as Gary doing it's a virtual
Right.
training, basically. But everybody's, as far as department heads and elected, have got to watch that and, take notes, et cetera, because it's imperative. Otherwise, yes, we have a liability.
And the advantage of participating in the live component of it is you can ask a question.
Correct.
So whereas if you watch the recorded version, your question may be answered there by someone who asked, but you give up the ability to ask a question yourself.
So are we, and I guess this is a question that we need to ask, as well as get back to Gary, is do we set that up after we've approved this?
Yes.
That would be my suggestion.
That
Once
would
we
be-
have this approved, but we should do that sooner rather than later.
Right.
So probably early March.
Right, get with her to see what day she can do it, that first week
Yeah.
in March.
We'll drive,
So,
like I said,
okay.
we'll drive that on a message of the day.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her then and see if she can put something together,
Yeah.
which I think she already has, but,
Right. Well, she's going to be offering that training to
Right.
all their clients, so.
So
and
her
that-
calendar availability is
Yes.
what
Yes.
we're asking
Yeah.
for. So, okay, very good.
And as you said, Commissioner, the House has passed 2 bills dealing with this issue and another issue that ties to this. The Senate has committee meetings today on their 2 bills that were introduced. They have a committee meeting today and tomorrow on the 2 Senate bills that were introduced that address the 2 issues that the House passed, one of them being the paid sick time. So what happens in that sausage making process is yet to be determined.
You used the exact reference that I was going to, so thank you. All right. So
Yes.
are
please.
we're good. All right. So, from the judge, her contracts are done in March, and her first day is March 17th, so her appointment isn't immediate. And she also went on to say that she did need the non-attorney magistrate done, and so we did take care of that already today. So that one is done, and
So with that, I would move to take resolution 25032 from the table.
I would support that, Commissioner.
And I would move to amend the resolution by adding language effective March 7th.
Yeah, just don't
We have
we
to
have to
vote on
move
for the
to
table.
remove
You're right.
or vote on that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Point well taken.
Keep your horse ahead of you.
Well, since we did it by roll call to table it, we'll do it by roll call to remove it. How's that?
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Benzing,
Yes.
Commissioner Leininger,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingalls.
Yes.
Passes 5-0. Please continue.
I would move to amend Resolution 25032 by adding the language effective March 17th, 2025.
I would support that amendment.
Let's make sure the clerk's got it.
Effective March 17th, 2025, and you're just going to add that to the end of that sentence.
Yep. Or whether this appointment shall be effective March 17th, 2025.
Right.
And Brad supported.
Correct. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Seems pretty simple. I'll just do an aye vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Let's see. We'll probably have our runner.
If you would read back the amended resolution, please.
We, the Board of Commissioners, hereby approve the appointment of Rachel Dockstader as a criminal and civil attorney magistrate for district court, period. This appointment shall be effective March 17th, 2025.
Agreeable? And that's what we'll be voting on, gentlemen. The resolution as amended.
Are you wanting to do that as a roll call?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Benton,
Yes.
Commissioner Leininger,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingalls,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Passes 5-0. There you go, sir.
Let the judge know on both of those. I appreciate your help.
There you go.
All right, so last meeting, I mentioned the new MTA Red Book. Thank you, Clerk Dane, for acting quickly on that. It is like so. If any of you would like to peruse it while it's here today, and the clerk also assures me he would be delighted to place an additional order to get one of those for any of you. So I know that I will be encouraging my townships, if they have not already purchased one, to the updated version, to acquire them. And I think that, you know, it's a valuable tool that they buy those for every one of their board members, from supervisor to trustee.
I'll have to look. I've got one on the shelf at home. I'll have to look what year that was.
It's probably whatever the last edition, because they don't do them very often.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
So.
Clerk Dane, I
Yes.
would like one, please.
Okay.
What edition does that say on it, Brad?
2025.
Oh, okay.
There you go, take Pete. And if you just pass it over there to the gentleman on the other side. All right, moving on. The balance in the ambulance reserve fund. Just for sake of interest, I did ask Derek for that. You may recall that we are now setting aside 1% of the revenues we collected. We did buy drug boxes out of that last year for about $2,500. So we currently have $30,983.29 in that fund. I've talked to the chair, and I would like to have our new emergency management director come and update us on his progress in that after his first 3 months on the job. And so that will be at our May the 13th meeting. And so that way we can get an idea of the progress that he has made. I know he has been doing a lot of house cleaning out there, a lot of old stuff, and there has not been a full-time person in that position previously. So I think that by that point, he will at least have his feet underneath him, and if we have him come, and then if you have any questions for him. I mentioned previously there was going to be a domestic violence roundtable that was going to be hosted via Zoom. That meeting was scheduled for last week, however, it was canceled, so they have not given a rescheduled date. Prevention Works meets this Thursday, so Commissioner Collins, hopefully I will see you there. The Child Death Review Team, which I represent, the EMS agencies, will meet on February the 18th. The ambulance providers will meet on the 19th following the 911 board meeting. And Commissioner Collins, if you could possibly be there, Be delighted to have you sit in on the 911 meeting as well. That's at 3:30, and then the ambulance, that is on the 19th. It's a
19th?
Wednesday, yep. So it'll be a week from tomorrow.
3:30?
Yep. And if you could be there as well, and that way you can meet the representatives from our ambulance agencies, the 5 of them. And so that, like I say, that will be on the 19th. Our monthly township meetings are well underway. Ransom did report last night that they are working through the winter to get the improvements to the transfer station, primarily the roof and the retaining walls done. Frozen ground has not helped. Last year would have been a lot easier to do that stuff, however, probably a little bit more muddy. But they are progressing on that. And note from North Adams that they should complete repaving of all their village streets this year. And that concludes my report, unless you have questions.
Well, I'll ask the question now, I guess it leads into my report. One of the things questioned, one of the main questions, and we heard it in public comment, and I heard it at Pittsburgh Township meeting last night, is who's the county going to dispatch when the letter is sent to Hudson and that 90 days comes for ambulance service in Pittsburgh Township?
Well, we currently have 5 ambulance providers for the county. If Hudson, we are simply not saying that Hudson cannot provide ambulance service. We are simply saying that we are no longer going to pay ambulance millage monies to Hudson. So consequently, that if Hudson notifies the county that they are no longer going to serve Hillsdale County, then that responsibility, the closest service will be Addison. I've talked to Director Honks. He, like every other agency, is short on medics, but he also understands that he is part of a countywide ambulance system, as do our other providers. And so they are the closest agency, and so it would be if, and really at this point we are still in the ifs, that they would be the closest provider, but of course it is always the closest available ambulance service. So the answer to your question, Commissioner, is whichever provider is the closest available ambulance service, that would be who would be dispatched to it. Interestingly, when I spoke with 911 in that regard, currently, under our current system, we can't see Addison and we can't see Hudson. So we do not dispatch them. Lenawee dispatches them. So when a call comes in that area, that we call Lenawee, and Lenawee dispatches the nearest available ambulance, not our ambulance, to Pittsburgh Township. Same thing with Jefferson. They can't see Hudson, even though they potentially would have a crew staffed at the Pittsburgh station. They are dispatched via Lenawee. So, as part of our new CAD update, which our live date is still April the 14th, and we are still trying to figure out if we will be able to then see them and dispatch that ourselves. So basically, we would be sending that to Lenawee's CAD electronically rather than calling them, because right now we call them. And the hope is because we are on the same CAD system, that we will be able to electronically send that call. As to Jefferson, the nearest available unit will most likely be an REU car. But again, that is up to Hudson of whether or not they choose to continue to provide service to that area. The difference is that we are currently paying Hudson between capital equipment and operation. In this year, we would pay them approximately $151,000. They will not be receiving for the period after that 90 days from when that letter is sent. They would not be receiving quarterly payments for that amount. That also means, though, since they are not participating, that if they were to choose to bill, because our current agreement is that they will not bill the individual, they'll bill their insurance, but they would not then bill for anything that was not reimbursed. They would be not part of the agreement with the county, and so therefore, they could bill those patients. But there is nothing to stop Hudson from servicing those areas. And that is the discussion that I've had with the supervisor in Jefferson. I have not spoken with Pittsburgh supervisor because they are not in my district. However, the conversation that I've had with the Jefferson supervisors, if their township board elects to have Hudson continue to provide them service, they can continue to provide them service. There's nothing to stop them. Medical control is the only authority that can stop Hudson EMS from running calls in Hillsdale County.
Has the letter been sent?
Letter has not been sent. Letter has not been received back from the attorney. The request was made following our last meeting, and I did send, because we have not received that letter back, I did do a follow-up email, and I know that Commissioner Wiley saw that as well, because I copied him on that follow-up email. So we have not received a letter from legal counsel.
So I believe the resolution was to have the attorney, or the motion was to have the attorney draft the letter.
Correct.
Will that letter be presented for approval by the board before it is sent?
I believe that the motion was, and have the chair sign.
Abe's gonna look that up real quick here, or at least make a valiant effort to. But I believe the motion was to have the chair sign it, as Commissioner Benzing said, but hopefully we can find it here and
Motion to have Mr. Thompson draft a 90-day notice to terminate the agreement between Hudson EMS and Hillsdale County, period.
I stand corrected. So your request for it to come back to the board is a valid request. You want to make that as a motion? To put it on record?
I don't know if we need a motion. I mean, we had a motion to authorize the attorney to draft the letter. There was no authorization authorizing anybody to send the letter once it was drafted.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I will make a motion that once we receive the letter, that we authorize the chair to sign it.
Is there a support for that? I guess I'm leaning more, I mean, I would support it. However, I'm leaning more towards having it come back and then we, have a motion to sign it and so on. But
And my only comment on that, are we going to waffle on this? All right, so either we're going to terminate our agreement with Hudson, or we're going to waffle on this.
Well,
And if we waffle on this, we might as well get rid of any oversight we have whatsoever with our contracts.
I agree. However, according to the motion that was just read, it's a little vague.
So,
I guess it's my only concern.
so, and again,
Yep.
I made a motion. If there is support for it, that's fine. If there is no support, then let it die.
I'm not hearing any support, Brad, so we'll let it die. Go ahead, Doug.
So I have a comment
You've got the floor.
Okay, so the comment is that I would like to read the letter before we authorize his signature. It's pretty simple. We've authorized the attorney to write the letter. It's not unreasonable to read the letter before we authorize to sign. Am I waffling? No. I'd like to see what he has to say, and then I will, if it's appropriate at the time, move to authorize the signature of the chair. But at this time, I would like to read the letter as written. So,
That's the way I'm leaning then, Doug, so then unless you want to make that as a motion, or
We don't need a motion yet.
I understand.
Yeah,
I'll make it happen then. That letter will be back in front of us,
yes.
so unless anybody's got any other comments on that, we'll move along. You have the floor, sir.
Well, again, last night was the first township meeting that I've had since our last board commissioner meeting, and that was at Pittsford Township. Many, as you heard stated here on public comment, many citizens are concerned that we're levying a tax for ambulance service. They like the service they're getting from Hudson Ambulance Agency, and they're disappointed that the commissioners have taken the action to cancel that contract with Hudson for that ambulance service. Well-Wise had personnel committee meeting last Monday. We are well underway in the search for a new CEO. In that process, the CEO position is posted on multiple job sites, Indeed, on the agency's website as well. As of yesterday when I looked, we had 31 applicants for that position. So look forward to next week, Tuesday, we have Finance Committee and Personnel Committee meetings in Brooklyn, and the Personnel Committee will be working at narrowing that application selection process down to those that will be coming in for an interview. And then we have opioid committee meeting tomorrow morning at 9 here in this room. And then after that, we have a conference call with the bond legal counsel to clear up some issues with for the treasurer, specifically dealing with working towards if we have to have another consultant on some bond repayment penalty that we may potentially see, depending on what the treasurer ends up doing, maybe with some of those investments. So, but again, we've got that conference call for 10 a.m. tomorrow morning with the legal counsel regarding that. Mr. Ringman's been busy working with ADP, trying to get them everything that they need to get everything built. Hopefully still for a live date of April 1st of this year. Not sure that exactly that's going to be the case right now. It may be delayed a week or two, but he is working to get that done. One of the things he indicated is that once we get to a certain point, all the employees will get an access email to ADP to go out and view some online training and helpful hints and stuff with ADP for access through their online portal system. I believe that's all I have at this time. There's no health department meeting since our last meeting. And township meetings tonight, Tuesday, so. Mr. Ringman was going to try and get some updated financials for the first month of the year, but with that work that he's doing, trying to get everything done with ADP, just priority is to get that stuff done with ADP right now, so. And he's also continuing to work with Clear Job on building the budget book system as well.
Any questions for Brent? All right. I believe that brings us up to Doug.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of items. It is the beginning of the month and not many meetings have happened yet. Since our last meeting, I did have a chance to attend a city council meeting. We did discuss and have raised the airport rental rates for the hangars. That has raised from $150 on the T hang up to $150 on the T hangars and $900 on the corporate hangars. Also, the Match on Main is a grant available for small businesses in Hillsdale. The application deadline is March 7. Contact Sam Fry at City Hall for details. short discussion on the road diet, considering another work session so the public can have input. The idea of roundabouts came up around City Hall. We'll see where that goes. Communication with MDOT is in process. City of Hillsdale has requested me to find out, and I forwarded emails to both Commissioner Leininger and Commissioner Wiley regarding the process for making a request to the opioid committee. So I don't know if you have had a chance to answer Mr. Fry yet, but they are interested in learning the process to make application to the opioid committee. We did have our first materials management committee meeting on January 30th. And in addition, I have had discussion with Eagle. Hillsdale may use the reduced planning committee, which is 7 members at a minimum. The following 7 seats must be filled: 1 solid waste disposal facility, 1 materials utilization facility, 2 environmental interest groups, or a regional planning agency, 1 elected official for the county, 1 elected for township, and 1 elected for city or village. So an option would be to rearrange some of the appointments that we have already made in order to meet Eagle's request. Chris Greider is from Jonesville Council. He initially was designated as a planning representative. Eagle has indicated and basically instructed me that he may be the representative that generates a managed material. There may be another seat that needs to be shifted as well with LRS in order to fill the 7 slots that Eagle has requested, demanded. So we do have an opening for another environmental interest group seat because we have been told that we do not need to have a regional planning rep. And I am working on that. The next meeting of the Materials Management Committee is February 27th, and we will begin drafting the work plan at that meeting. And again, the work plan that we need to come up with is a 1-year work plan. We don't need to do a 3-year work plan initially. So Eagle has been very helpful, and Eagle has made great consideration of Hillsdale County being a small rural community. They are being very adaptive and encouraging, so that I think that we'll be able to move forward in a good fashion with our materials management planning process. That completes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Did you see on the latest, I think it was Friday, Michigan Association of Counties update, there's a webinar. It says join Eagle on February 19th, webinar on material management, planning grants. That was in that MAC correspondence. So I don't know if you saw it, Doug.
You that right from Eagle as well.
Okay. Just thought I'd point that out. Go ahead.
Are you done with your report?
Yes, I am.
All right, so first off, at Ransom last night, the Waldron FFA did a very nice presentation on food waste management. And so if you have the opportunity to, I think they'll be out and about presenting that. And if you have the opportunity to see that, it would be pretty informative. Also, Cliff Feather gave an update on your first meeting. And I think that right now the big question I was hearing there is what, if anything, that they will be doing with recycling at the Ransom Transfer Station. So I know that part of this is that we reduce to like 45% of the materials by 2029 go into recycling, and I know that part of our new materials management plan is we will have to produce a county recycling guide. Doesn't mean that every place that
has a waste transfer facility, like that recycling program, but we gotta tell people where they're at, so, but there was some really good feedback from the meeting, and I'm glad that you're making progress with that, Commissioner.
Thank you. Waste food management is part of the program of materials management. And the question was brought up about the recycling and how to manage clean recycling as well. Because you can recycle, but if certain other waste gets in, it's contaminated recycling. So there will be, in that work plan, there will be consideration of making the steps be functional for what we in our county need. So, yes, Commissioner.
Commissioner, I wonder if we need to revise then the resolution that we adopted, creating our material management planning
Yes.
committee, because when that was adopted, we stuck strictly to the 10-member
Yes.
planning committee,
Well-
and we didn't provide in that resolution as is provided in the statute, the option to go to that 7-member committee. So-
We do, but I'm not prepared yet. I would like to wait until I get the other environmental, and then I'll bring that information and we'll do a adjustment.
Right, and because I would say, I would just simply recommend that we make our resolution match what the state statute says, which says, if Eagle permits, we can be a 7-member body, which is composed of this. Because Eagle, I do believe the statute says Eagle does have to permit to that smaller.
Right. We can today if you'd like. I'm not prepared for that.
Yeah, right, nor am I today, right, but I said, hearing that, I said, I just think we do need to revise that resolution.
Yes,
that
we do. And I've sent an email wondering the process, how we're going to move forward.
I've been printing them off, Doug, so I've got them. Got my own little pile that, between you and Eagle and, yeah.
And as we have gone with this process, it's certainly something that is evolving as we go. And as I reach the point of no return and I learn new information that is very helpful, that helps us evolve to move forward again with new energy, so to speak. So I have good optimism that we're going to be able to accomplish. The meeting was a very positive meeting. We had excellent response and turnout and discussion. And I think that at our next meeting, we'll make, again, more progress in actually having a work program drafted. So
you're, wrote it down somewhere. Your next meeting
February
is at 27.
Yes. And the meeting times are 6 o'clock to 7:30, and we will meet monthly until we get this thing hammered out. And the next meeting is February 27th, 6 p.m. in this room.
So I would suspect for our first meeting in March, you'd have some potential resolutions for us. Yes, no?
I would like to speak with the committee themselves. I have sent an email to them for possible recommendations for the environment, and so I'm still gathering that. And yes,
Potential. Okay. Very good.
okay.
Well, I'm just noting the date.
I'm not putting it too far down my list. It'll be coming.
Right.
But I want to be prepared when I bring something that it's complete.
I mean, based on your discussion with Brent here a minute ago, you're meeting after our next meeting, so that's why I say the first meeting in March.
Correct.
So, okay. Very good.
Potentially, yes.
Yep, potentially. All right. Anything else for Doug? Kevin, you're up.
Not very much has happened. Not had many meetings. Community Action Agency, I went to that board meeting and I did get accepted to be on their board.
Okay.
And last Friday I did their orientation with Toby and had a senior center meeting, and I guess for the last 3 years, the Meals on Wheels has doubled, or, I mean, it's been a lot. And they are trying to get another Meals on Wheels vehicle, I think they have a grant for it, to get a new one because they need more people to deliver. And that's about all I have.
Well, probably the rest of the month will be busier.
Yeah, I got 2 meetings a day for this week.
All right. Any questions for Kevin or comments? All right. Would like to remind you about the MAC conference, April 7th through the 9th. Registration, I believe, is open right now. I don't remember. There's an early bird and then so if you can and you're interested in going, let Abe know so that we can get in. The earlier the better. We capture a little better price. So just a reminder on that. Lifeway's facilities meeting yesterday and finance meeting this evening. A lot of discussion in both committees concerning the building, the property that Lifeways is buying. Of course, I think I've told you, on the corner of Industrial Drive and Beck Road, basically in between the skating rink and Becker and Scrivens. So on that west corner, northwest corner. The building was, the property was closed on I'll just say January 22nd because we're into February. So, Lifeways now owns that parcel of property. There's approximately 8 acres there. And like I said, that's taken a lot of time as far as both committees discussing with the architect, with the builder, with plans, et cetera, et cetera. There was even some discussion yesterday of maybe putting it in 2 different phases so that we can get a portion of it built quicker and get moved. So we'll see where that discussion goes. Everything's very fluid. To kind of add just more things to the fire, I've been appointed to a couple other committees to look at the benefit, because they're on a defined benefit plan, and as far as pension, and as we all know, defined benefit or pension plans are potential liability, and of course a lot of money and a lot of concern, especially on a DB. So, and the chairman, Earl Pileski, also asked me to be part of a committee to start the process of looking for, not necessarily looking for, but developing the process as to, and there's a couple of staff members, one of which is the HR director that's on this committee, for a search for a CEO, as Lifeway or as Wellwise is doing. We've got to get busy and start that process because Mary Beth has tentatively set a date of February 1st of 26. So lots going on with Lifeways. The conference that I attended seems like weeks ago, I think it was just last week, with community mental health. A lot of good breakout sessions, and I won't belabor on those. However, one thing I did want to mention to everyone, something that I found out that I had not heard of. The legislature did a lot of changes in some of the laws last July, which were signed into law concerning powers of attorneys and something to do with wills and trusts. So if you've got your estate planning already, which we have had for a number of years, contacted our attorney and he said, yes, please make an appointment. We need to go over it. Like our trust, he indicated, was about 3 or 4 pages. Now he says with the changes that the state has done, the trust is now about 12 to 14 pages instead of 3 or 4. So just FYI, if you've got that in your portfolio, so to speak, check into it. And some of the things have changed as far as powers of attorneys. So, we're, as the world turns. So, and the last thing I wanted to mention to you all was the resident that was here at the last meeting with the problems with her water drainage at Carpenter Lake. Last week, I believe it was Thursday, Drain Commissioner Word, Director, I'm drawing a blank, Bob Griffiths
Yeah.
from the Road Commission. Yeah, and myself met with her out there. Bob Griffiths actually showed Matt and I some work that he had done within the last year, or the Road Commission did, I should say, as far as blowing out one of the culverts, which was actually the property next to her, along the road there. The way the tubes are and the way the ditch is, the water needs to get up a little higher to actually flow through the tube. I mean, there's so much water sitting in the ditch, which really isn't flowing into her yard. She's about midway on the hill, and water runs downhill, of course. And I think the other issue is, we were standing there, that Grant Drive that she lives on is actually about that much higher than not only her yard, but the yard to the west, which in turn creates kind of a dip in her side yard, is basically where everything's at. And so, with the fact that that drive was built there, probably before the house was built, or after, I don't know which, but there's like 3 or 4 houses right there that all have water issues. And then she even told us that the 2 other houses, kind of behind her and to the west, they had hired someone to raise their homes up about 2 foot. So, long story short, Matt has provided her some information as far as if she wanted to go through the process of creating a drainage district, which she doesn't even have enough neighbors because it requires 10 signatures. Bob Griffiths basically said his, jurisdiction stops at that 33 feet from the center line. And so we talked about her trying to run a drain on a easement, which she's gonna have to get a lawyer involved, because I don't know if she can do that on an easement. We all 3 agreed on, that aspect. But if she can, and then return it, of course, to the state that it's in, which right now is just basically a yard. The neighbors mow that easement. Run a tile from that low spot in her yard down to the lake. The problem is standing there, the lake and her yard look like they're really close. So
Make it water come back from the lake.
Exactly. So depending on the lake level, she may create a bigger problem. So, and of course, if she tries to run a tile to the lake, she needs to get Eagle involved. So as soon as I went home, I forwarded Eagle's page to her and the contact information on those people dealing with lake water and such. So, try to do my due diligence. I don't know if I've helped her or not, but at least the 3 of us were there and we had time to talk and look at it, and she seemed to appreciate the visit. So, but that's all I've got for you, gentlemen, unless you've got a question. And I believe that brings us back to public comment. Anyone wish to address the board? Thank you all for coming. We'll run around the table for additional business. Doug?
Just that when Supervisor Shaw was here, he mentioned 12 million for the courthouse. The amount was 10.5, and I wanted to clear that up. And as far as the ambulance issue that the townships brought, when I got in a discussion with one of the township trustees, the concern from the Board of Commissioners is to support the ambulance service in our county. We are not trying to disrupt that service. We are trying to fulfill the ambulance service, and that would be my comment.
Thank you. Brad?
First of all, Commissioner Langer, I appreciate you're saying about the amount of feedback, but I will say that I received in the last 2 weeks since our last meeting more commentary from constituents in the public in regards to the $40,000 we appropriated from the opioid fund than I did about the $150,000 that we took away or potentially are taking away from Hudson EMS and the situation there. So evidently, quiet rooms are of significantly greater importance than whether an ambulance shows up at your house or not. And just to follow in that, we all continue to struggle with response times. I know I worked Sunday, I was put on a call, and our estimated time to that call was 53 minutes. We actually did get taken off of that. They found a closer unit, but sometimes those response times, regardless of what county that you're working in, what service you're working for, there can always be those times when you're zero car and you are the closest available ambulance, and it might be a bit of a trek.
All right, thank you. Kevin?
There was one other thing, me and Brett went to the superintendent's meeting that they had at the ISD, and I did get word back that they do have a school board president out of Reading.
Chuck, I got an application from Chuck.
Oh, did you? You got one from Chuck? Okay, so
Okay.
I guess we have,
For the
we're
planning
gonna be
commission.
getting two.
So those two applicants or applications will be sent to management and personnel? All right, very good.
When I get I haven't gotten the one that I talked to, the superintendent out of Reading. I
Okay,
talked to him yesterday, and he was gonna have her fill it out and send it to me, or email it to me.
okay.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Brent?
Highlighting on Commissioner Angel's, the payment to Renaissance Restoration, I believe, was the 10.5 million. There was another 260,000 to Blackberry for the windows at a courthouse. And yes, there was discussion in the past about potentially using some of the ARPA money for the 800 megahertz radios. That was rejected by this body, and at that point in time, the electors of the county rejected the millage levy for the 800 megahertz radio. As we know, when we delay purchasing items, we potentially suffer the consequences of inflation, and we saw that with the 800 megahertz radio. We were approved for bonding of up to $16 million. That does not necessarily mean that 800 megahertz project that we're undertaking now will actually end up costing that full $16 million. So.
And to that point, I know Director Whitaker will be providing a weekly update on the project to Brent and Brad and myself, of which we'll share with the board as the project proceeds. And Brad will take care of any questions he has as far as the project, and Brent will be the point man on the money issues. So we're trying to divide the responsibilities, but Director Whitaker's in the process of working with Derek to create a spreadsheet that will be beneficial going forward as far as when payments are due, the amounts, how much things are. Some things are not known yet, So there won't be an amount on the spreadsheet for consumers' energy, for instance, because right now we don't have an estimate on what it's gonna take to put power to that lot that we bought. So,
Right.
but those, the purchase of those lots are completed.
Correct. And, you know, one of the things, the one lot, we may have to pay for some easement rights for access across the parcel to get power
Yeah, that's,
to the one site, so.
Dave, step to the podium. Dave is asking, what?
I paid the attorney.
You paid the attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
He sent me an invoice and I paid for it.
All right, very good. Thank you.
And if I might,
Go ahead.
have we made the repayments back to you? I know there was some monies that were paid for out of 911. Okay, but those,
I didn't want to work with Derek on that because he's doing the payroll transition, so
Right.
I'm doing it in his space right now.
okay. So I was just asked that following last 911 board meeting about that still was gonna happen. And I assured Director Whitaker that that was in the plans, but if I could say that those checks have been cut, then that'd be even better.
Maybe just journal entry transfer.
Well, you can always say the check's in the mail, that's just the way it is. One last thing I'd share with you all, because Doug brought it up about the opioid money. Brent did send an email reply back to,
Sam Fry.
yes, I believe
Yeah,
that's,
but sent a couple of communications to Sam.
Thank you.
And a reminder, the opioid money has strings attached through a federal court class action settlement as to what those funds can be used for.
Right.
Okay.
Exhibit E lays those out.
Exhibit E lays out
Yes.
the guidelines for that expenditure. The counties and local units of government that were deemed to have been impacted are receiving 50% of the state's share of those opioid funds. The state of Michigan is receiving the other 50% of the share of those opioid class action litigation settlement funds. And the state of Michigan has numerous other activities and applications for other entities or municipalities even to submit requests for some of those additional opioid funds as well. And so I sent that to Sam
Thank
in
you.
addition, so.
If I could add to that, despite what other counties or other cities have done with those funds, that our belief is we're going to stick to the letter of what that agreement says, and we're not going to be creative.
well, it's my personal opinion that sooner or later there is going to be an accounting for those monies.
Absolutely.
And at such time, we want to be on the right side of the law. So I know there is some counties, even neighboring counties, that have spent some of this money in a way that does not fit into Exhibit E. And probably what's going to happen is some of the pharmaceutical companies are eventually going to catch wind of this, and then they're going to file, some sort of action. So, but go ahead.
So just to comment, when Sam and I did discuss the possibility of requesting opioid money from the committee,
Yep.
Exhibit E was the first topic of our discussion.
Yep.
So he's got full awareness of Exhibit E, and that's why I forwarded his request to our committee representatives.
Well,
So
and,
they want to do what's right,
Yep.
they want to find out what they can do, and that's the point of the request.
and I think Brett and I talked about this, and I believe municipalities that did not participate physically in the lawsuit have the ability to request, if they've got an idea that falls into Exhibit E, they submit that request to the state. And then the state takes that portion of money that they have and distributes it downward.
Understood, and that's the information
Yes.
you provided.
Yeah, okay,
Got
okay,
it.
good. We're all on the
Thank
same
you.
page. All right, anything else, gentlemen? We stand adjourned.
Thank you.
And it's much earlier than usual.